Continuing the study here of Srimad Bhagavad-Gita, and now we're coming towards the end of the 11th chapter. Today we're going to speak or talk on verse 53. So I'll read the verse, and then this is the verse that Parvati asked me to speak on, so I don't know what the schedule was here. But anyway, let me read the verse. Naham vedir na tapasya. Naham vedir na tapasya. Nadanena na chayaya. Sakyaivam vido drashtum drashtavan asimam yata naham vidir na tapasya nadhanena na chayaha sakyaivam vido drashtum drishtavam asimam yata. Someone else want to read? Naham vidir na tapasya sakyameva vido drastam dvisvam asammam yata naham vidir na tapasya nadhanena nachayaya Sakyamevam hidho drashtam drishtavam asimam yatha. Mataji? Naham vedir na tapasya nadanyena na chejana sakyaevam hidho drashtam Vishtam dhamasulam vinha Naham vedir na tapasya Nadanena na chejaha Sakya evam vidho drashtam Drishta asimam yatha. So I'll read the translation. We won't do the word for word. The form which you are seeing with your transcendental eyes cannot be understood simply by studying the Vedas, nor by understanding nor by undergoing serious penances, nor by charity, nor by worship. It is not by these means that one can see me as I am. Purport by His Divine Grace, Srila Prabhupada. Krishna first appeared before his parents, Devaki and Vasudeva, in a four-handed form, and then he transformed himself into the two-handed form. The mystery is very difficult to understand for those who are atheists or who are devoid of devotional service. For scholars who have simply studied Vedic literatures by way of speculation or out of mere academic interest, Krishna is not easy to understand, nor is he to be understood by persons who officially go to the temple to offer worship. They make their visit, but they cannot understand Krishna as he is. Krishna can be understood only through the path of devotional service, as explained by Krishna himself to you in the next verse. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu Swapitam Swayam Vipakarama Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Shri Vasudeva So this chapter is very important, and as a senior devotee, I'm expected to come and speak on different subjects, as if I had some type of great realizations. But in my case, for me, the longer I remain as a devotee, the more I truly come to the realization that I know very, 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 very little about Krishna. So recently I haven't volunteered to give classes specifically for this reason, that I feel inadequate to speak. There may be people who might have some intellect and are able to recite many verses or many pastimes of Krishna, but simply being able to do these things doesn't mean that you are advanced. Advanced is visible, as Srila Prabhupada said here, only through the path of devotional service. So Arjuna was Krishna's friend, and for the benefit of the ordinary persons, such as you and I, he asked Krishna to show him this universal form. So we know that in the beginning, when this conversation between Lord Krishna and Arjuna began, Arjuna posed himself as being somewhat disturbed, confused, and was contemplating his circumstances, and came to the conclusion that he didn't want to fight. So being perplexed, what did Arjuna do? He threw down his bow, and he refused to fight. So this confusion or this dilemma that Arjuna was faced with prepared the conversation between Lord Krishna and Arjuna, questions and answers. So once this conversation began, after a certain amount of discourse had taken place, Arjuna surrendered to Krishna, and he accepted everything that Lord Krishna had instructed him. And he is a devotee, and he didn't want to see, it wasn't necessary for him to see this universal form of the Lord. But for others, and we are included in that category, for the benefit of us, he asked Lord Krishna to show this universal form. But unexpectedly, when Krishna showed this form, and this form is not visible to anyone, and in this verse, the contents states that one must have proper vision, the ability to see. So nobody but Arjuna and a selected groups of demigods were able to see this unbelievable form, this universal form of Lord Krishna. And it was so overwhelming that at this time Arjuna's intelligence was gone. He was flabbergasted by the immense grandeur of this form that encompassed everything that anyone could imagine, both past, present, and future. Terrible activities and glorious activities were all being manifested at the same time, and all of the demigods were visible, and everything that was transpiring between every living entity was visible, and Arjuna, he didn't know what to do. So in this frame of mind, he continually fell at the feet of Lord Krishna. So he was just so confused. And we have seen pictures of the universal form, and some of the faces and some of the activities are horrifying. People being devoured by rakshasas, and people having their heads cut off, and beautiful celestial demigods and apsaras. All of these entities were visible there in that that form, that universal form. And once Arjuna, he began to gain a bit more of his composure. He came to his senses, and he realized that this is not the form. It's just as when Krishna appeared before Devaki and Vasudeva. How did he appear? He appeared in his four-armed form. So the common people identify that four-armed form of Krishna as Vishnu, the Supreme Lord. So if he would have just appeared as a little boy, a small child, then the common people with less intelligence, they would accept Krishna as being an ordinary human being. But we know quite the contrary. So this was summarized nicely by Srila Prabhupada in the 8th verse of this chapter. I'm just going to read a part of it, what he had said. The pure devotee does not like to see Krishna in any form except his form with two hands. A devotee must see his universal form by his grace only, not with the mind, but with spiritual eyes. To see the universal form of Krishna, Arjuna is told not to change his mind, but to change his vision. The universal form of Krishna is not very important for the devotees, but because Arjuna wanted to see it, the Lord gave him the proper vision that is required to see this universal form. So devotees who are correctly situated on this correctly situated in a transcendental relationship with Krishna are attracted by his loving features, not by a godless display of opulence. So Krishna's playmates, the cowherd boys in Vrindavan, so how did they see Krishna? Did they visualize Krishna as the residents in Dwarka? So in Dwarka, everyone saw Lord Krishna with visualization of awe and reverence. But the cowherd boys, Mother Yasoda, Ananda Maharaj, all of the gopis and such, how did they see Krishna? They saw him as a mischievous little boy playing here, doing this and doing that. They had no perception that he was the Supreme Personality of Godhead. But they exhibited immense love for this personality. So true devotees of Lord Krishna, they are not interested in seeing the universal form of the Lord. How many devotees do you know that have a murti or, in their home of the universal form and offering? So no. Why is that? Because what is the universal form a representation of? It's a representation of this material energy. So we know that Krishna has two energies, the spiritual energy and the material energy. And so those that become enamored by all of the phantasmagoria of this material world, they will never have this rasa or this relationship with Lord Krishna. So in this situation here, Srila Prabhupada is described that Arjuna is one of the first in the line, the parampara system, that he accepted Krishna as his friend. He didn't have interest in this universal form. So if we want to make advancement, we have to follow in the footsteps of Arjuna and become a surrendered soul, giving up all of our attachments to all of this activity that is taking place here in the material world. But for us, our dilemma is that we are trapped here in this material world, and without success, again and again, we're trying in so many ways to find some type of pleasure or some type of satisfaction here in this material world. And in order to fulfill these desires or these ambitions for material happiness, we involve ourselves in so many activities. And these activities, they include attachments to wife, children, homes, forms, material possessions, but it doesn't matter. Whatever we do, we'll never be able to fulfill our heart's true desire. And the true happiness is described as ananta. So what does ananta mean? That which has, yes, that which has no end. So real pleasure is ananta. So that has no end, but in the material world, we can find nothing that can satisfy our sensual desires eternally. And example that Srila Prabhupada often gave is that if we are given sumptuous foods, we can eat and eat and eat, but there'll come a time and there'll come a point that we can't eat anymore. And even if the food is so delicious, at a point the thought of taking one more bite of this food becomes repulsive. So we don't want this. So this is the mentality for those in material consciousness. These are people that are enamored by this phantasmagoria of this universal form. But Krishna says in Bhagavad-Gita, chapter 7, verse 19, Bahunam janmanamante gyanangena prapajite vasudevam sarvamiti sabmahatma sulatalab. So, after many, many births and deaths, he who is in actual knowledge surrenders unto me, knowing me to be the cause of all causes and all that is. Such a great soul is very rare. So, how rare? So, we know that there are billions of living entities here in this planet that we're living on. What to speak of other planets? And out of billions of living entities, how many are going to surrender to Krishna? How many are going to be that one individual that gives up everything and surrenders completely to Krishna? So, out of us sitting here, can anyone boldly claim that they are going to be that 1 in a billion? No. So perhaps, hopefully, all of us will succeed. It's because not for lack of opportunity. We have the human form of life. We have intelligence where we can discern right from wrong, and we have proper guidance through the mercy of Srila Prabhupada, through the instructions given here by Krishna to Arjuna. But those that become so enamored by this material existence, they lose sight that Krishna has two energies. One, his material energy, and his spiritual energy, and of course marginal energy also. But Krishna says in the Vishnu Puranas, or it's described in the Vishnu Puranas, Ekadisha Shti Hasyagner Jyotasha Vrittanir Yata Paryasa Brahmana Shaktis Tahedam Akilam Jagat. So Jagat Akilam is nothing but a manifestation of Krishna's energy. So we may be Brahman. Brahman means spirit, and we may also be eternal. But what is Krishna? If we are Brahman, Krishna is Param Brahman. Don't sleep. Okay? So he is the supreme spirit, and there is nothing beyond him. So if we're looking for the ultimate truth, we must search out that person who is Param Brahman, and that is Krishna. And our problem is that we have been identifying with this matter or this material for so long, we have forgotten who we really are. We have forgotten this. And all we know is what we see here in this material world. And this is what Arjuna is visualizing now when Krishna manifests this universal form. So you go outside, you see people, they see friends, they see relatives, they see tragedy, they see distress, they see filth, they see opulence, and this is all that they see. And so what happens is that the intelligence begins to identify with these visual objects which we think are tangible, and they again start first when you're given a body, and along with this body you're put into different circumstances. The first thing you see as a baby is you look into your mother's eye, and then there is some maternal affection that begins to manifest itself. And in this way, we become entrapped more and more and more and more into this material perplexity. And all of these activities, they are becoming apparent to Arjuna through seeing this terrible, frightening universal form. So for us who are now perplexed and confused, what do we have to do? We have to change our lives, and we have to escape from the clutches of this material entanglement and elevate ourselves to the platform of ultimate pleasure. So this is our heart's true desire, and this is, again, it's described as being ananta because it has no end. So we've had objects or relationships in this material world, and they have a beginning and they have an end. Even close-knit families can deteriorate right before your eyes. Where there was once love, there becomes hostility and hatred between even mothers and sons, fathers and children, brothers and sisters. So in this way, these dualities, they are so confusing for the living entities here in this material world. Because what are we visualizing? How are we experiencing these things? And what are we taking from the interaction of these things? Only perplexity. And because our vision is obscured, what do we see is what we think is reality. So there's a nice story by Plato. I don't know if you're familiar, but it's called the allegory of the cave. So in this scenario, Plato is describing that suppose there's a man that he is born in a cave, and he's born facing the wall of the cave, the exit to this cave is just a small entranceway, and outside of this entranceway there is a wall, and all of the people and all of the activities in the town or the village where this is taking place, those people are walking by this entrance to the cave in front of this wall. So there's a reflection being emanated from these objects into the cave, onto the wall of this cave. And what does this man see? He sees only the reflection. And this is not a true reflection because it's being perverted or distorted by the wall which is in front of the road. So this can be applied to ourselves. This means that our dilemma is that we are born into this material world, and we have become so deluded that our vision has been obscured, and we do not see things with clarity. We see things and we accept them to be reality, but that which is real has no end. But every relationship we experience in this material world, even with our very own existence, has a termination point, and because we are eternal, we become confused. So how does Krishna explain this, and what is the answer? He says in Bhagavad-Gita that, what is it here? Well, anyway, I'll skip that point. But one of the obstacles is that because we're misinformed, we become more perplexed. So many times we hear amongst people who rise up against some issues that government may be trying to implicate or impose on them, and also an opposite way where government officials will propound some theories and they will declare that something is unconstitutional. So what does unconstitutional mean? Who can give me an answer? What does unconstitutional mean? Yeah, unconstitutional means, yes, it's not true. Yes, but we are saying this is unconstitutional. But what is actually, our nature is unconstitutional. We are here in these material bodies. This is not true. Our constitutional position is what? Satchitananda Vigraha. And our relationship with this material world is asat. Not true. It's not true. So Prabhupada said that this material world is unconstitutional. And we are being subjected to unconstitutional conditions here in this material world. So it behooves us to escape from the clutches of this material existence and learn again our true identity. And that true identity is to be like the cowherd boys in Vrindavan, like Mother Yasoda, to have a loving, ever expanding relationship with the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And even in this lifetime, we can get this. So Krishna says in Bhagavad-Gita, Dihanoismin yata dehi kumaran yovanam jarata patehantara prapris guri ratati. So we are going to go through these changes, but even when we're little babies, we are eternal. But because our senses are limited to activities that are only manifest in that of a baby, we are going to act like a baby. But for those that are wise, when the changes take place, even to the point where some of us, most of us here are reaching an elderly age. So where are we on this path? We are at the end of this cycle. But how is our consciousness fixed? Is our consciousness fixed on leaving this material world, or maintaining attachment to all of the activities and all of those things that have manifest themselves and disappeared before our eyes, and lamenting for things that we have lost? Or will we be prepared to give up this body joyfully and go back home, go back to Godhead? So Bhagavad-Gita again, it says that Brahma Bhuta Prasanatma Nasochiti Nakantati Sama Sarvishu Bhutashu Mad Bhaktam Labdite Param. So one who has thus transcendentally situated at once realizes the Supreme Brahman, and he never laments nor desires to have anything. He is equally disposed to every living entity. In that state, he attains pure devotional service unto me. So this is the perfection of life, to attain that pure devotional service to Lord Krishna. So in different degrees, we are aspiring for that goal. But Krishna also says that as one surrenders to me, I reward you accordingly. So maybe in the past, at some sporting event or before an exam for your studies at school, your teachers, your coaches, or your parents, they're always saying, you must give 100%, 100%. And in material perspective, those figures mean that 100% means success. But in spiritual life, if you don't give 100%, it means what? Another birth here again in this material world. So how many want to go through that again? How many can remember? So we forget so easily how miserable it was being a baby. Not able to walk, not able to talk, not able to do anything yourself, poop in your pants, and just lay there. And then as you mature, being tormented by Adhyatmic, Adhibautik, Adhidaivik, all of these material uncomforts that come along with human form of life. So we must not retain these attachments. And in our spiritual life, we must strive for 100% success. Now, materially speaking, if you're not 100% successful, there's no results. But in spiritual life, if you're only 50% successful, then Krishna is very merciful, and he gives you the opportunity to start next life at that 50% point. But how long does it take? It says, Bahunam Janmanamante. After many, 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 many births and deaths. And we don't know how many births and deaths we have taken in this material existence. But Sabmahatma Suladam, there's rarely one person who becomes successful. And that success is your stairway back home, back to Godhead. So these activities that we study, they are meant to encourage us to become more serious. So we are, some of us, most of us here are living here in Vrindavan, and so if you make that sacrifice and you come to a holy place and you want to further your spiritual advancement, you must become extremely, extremely serious here, because the alternative is that if you're not serious, you're making some type of offense, and that means you are making offense to other Vaishnavas, you are making offense to the holy Dham, or you are killer of the soul. You are killing your own soul by neglecting the opportunity you have to catapult yourself out of this material existence and go back home. So please, for those of us who live here in the Holy Dham, we should always pray that we can remain pure. Don't become puffed up and think that we are so intelligent and we know so much. I concluded, this for me, this is my 50th year being a devotee. And Krishna has given me the intelligence to say that I know nothing about Krishna. Krishna is ever expansive. We know that Anantasesha, he has how many heads? Millions and millions of heads. And what are all of these heads doing? They are propounding the greatness and the magnanimity of Vishnu, of Krishna. And never once does any of those heads repeat itself. So if we become too proud and puffed up and think that we know so much, no, we know nothing. So as I said, I haven't been giving classes just for this one purpose. I feel unqualified to even attempt to speak about Krishna, the greatness of Lord Krishna. But I've been given a little intelligence, and I understand that this is serious business that we're engaged in. More serious than anything that you may have ever exposed yourself to in the past or in the future. But this business of going back home, back to Godhead, is very serious. And don't take it lightly, because just imagine, you have to imagine the length of time that we have endured births and births and births through 8,400,000 species of life, numerous times, from time immemorial. And now we have that opportunity to go home. So I'll stop here if anyone has questions. Yes. There's no microphone. Is there a microphone?
Just like we are in this material world, and material world, the things are happening according to the way it's happening. But we are trying to come out and see that how we can associate with devotees and how we should go back to body. This is the thing we are planning to do. But still some obstacle always try to come and stop us the things. So how should we come out from those obstacles when we are all associating with the devotees, but still some obstacles are there. So how should we come out from them?
Yes, this is the duty of material energy to keep us entangled in material activities. But these are activities that are being afflicted upon us through guna and karma, the material body and our karma. If you want to overcome these obstacles, you must use intelligence. So what does Krishna say? You control the lower self by the higher self. And the lower self is what? Who knows? The senses and the mind. So these are things that with intelligence we should be able to say, just like we see fire, we don't stick our hand in the fire. Why? Because some people are stupid and they'll stick their hand in the fire anyway. But if you're intelligent, oh, fire is hot. If I stick my hand in there, I'll burn. This is intelligence. So we have to learn to listen to our intelligence and don't let the mind and the body control you. So if something is favorable, Krishna says in Bhagavad-Gita, you must accept that. But if it's unfavorable, you must reject that. So many things that, they entice us because of glitter or some immediate sensual pleasure. We think that there's pleasure and this is right, but in reality this is wrong. We should reject them. And so you yourself are in control of your destiny in this way. So when you're sitting with your friends and they begin to engage in prajapal, what do? Do you fall in suit and begin talking nonsense with them? Or do you get up and leave? So if you sit there and talk with them, then you are letting the lower self control the higher self. But if you get up and leave, then you're utilizing your intelligence. So just as a toy, if a child is given a toy and that child misuses the toy, beats his brother with the toy instead of playing with it as a car, what do the parents do? They take the toy away from him. So we have this intelligence, and intelligence is awarded to who? Intelligence is only awarded to those in the human form of life. The animal kingdom, every animal is destined to behave and respond according to that body which they're given. But in human form of life, we have the ability to make decisions and decide for ourselves what is right and what is wrong. So you've been around for some time. You're like me, reaching towards the end of your life. So what's your decisions going to be? Are they going to be the right decisions, or decisions that are mandated by desires of the material body? So hopefully they are.
It's but according to our destinies and our previous habits, it's very difficult sometimes we feel that to leave our habits. We can, just like in the beginning when we came, we can stop taking meat, intoxication, we can stop all those things. But still our habits which are forcing us to do some nonsensical things. So that habits, to control the habits sometimes it becomes very difficult.
That's what I just covered. So these bad habits you must give up. Sarvadamam pratyajad mamekam saranam rajaha. Give up all of these things. And what? Surrender to who? To Krishna. So if you can't surrender, no. I can't give it up. I can't give it up. So what does it mean? Another birth. Another birth. Another birth. Another birth. Until one day you awaken. And you say, no more. I'm not going to be subjected to one more birth. And now is the chance to resolve that disease that you've suffered for innumerable lifetimes. So you're an intelligent man, so I expect you to use that intelligence to get out of this maze of misery and enjoy, like the residents of Vrindavan. So we're here in Vrindavan, but who is actually in Vrindavan? So people come to Vrindavan. When you come to Vrindavan, what do you see? You see filth, you see congestion in cars, you see innumerable shops, you see all of this. So are you in Vrindavan? No. You're only on the peripheral of Vrindavan. You're on the outside of Vrindavan. But to enter into that Vrindavan Dham, you have to enter in the mood of the residents of that Dham. And those residents, they have nothing but loving affection for Krishna. They wake up in the morning thinking, oh, if I'm a cowherd boy, I have to get dressed, I have to go to Krishna's house, I have to help Mother Yasoda dress Krishna. Oh yes, we have to do this. And then if you're one of the older gopis, oh, I have to make some food. Oh, so everything is love for Krishna, love for Krishna. Then we think of Krishna. Krishna, always think of me. Become my devotee. And what does Krishna guarantee? He will protect you. So are you always thinking of Krishna? I don't think so. So you have to work on that.
Yeah, we are thinking about Krishna, but coming out, and once you give a decision that I will stop all these things, but again if the mind is just pulling us back and back to same dirty habits.
Then that means you are weak. So you have to work on your strength. And how do you do that? Cheto darpanamajanam. And what does that mean? Chanting the holy name of the Lord. Harinama, 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 Kevalam, Polodas, Kevalam, Kevalam. So by chanting the holy name of the Lord, not just repetitiously saying the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra, but listening carefully to that mantra and having that sound penetrate into your ears, and it goes around through the circles in your earlobes and goes down into your heart. And just like if you have a whiteboard or a chalkboard and the eraser, what is that doing? That holy name is cleansing the heart. And once all of these things, the dirty things in your heart have been removed, then you can execute pure devotional service. So right now we're still working on it. So don't give up. So, and just always remember that Srila Prabhupada is the expert boatman, and he is flying us across this turbulent cycle of birth and death. And have full faith in him, and everything else is perfect. Okay?
We catch hold of him so we can
Yes.
cross.
Yes. Grab on and don't let go. But don't let go means that you must follow his instructions. Don't be a pretender. Be a serious devotee. Okay?